guys. It's me Klasky. Back with another rant to share, and this rant is where the dead go to die. So let's get started. 1. The official trailer says nothing about the film, as it's just a collection of ugly and graphic imagery that tells the audience absolutely nothing about the actual plot and story. Not to mention how there's absolutely zero narration or dialogue that could give even the slightest hints about the plot of the film and what it's actually about. 2. The story is by far the worst aspect of the film. It's divided in 3 segments that are completely detached from one another, except during the epilogue, where the characters from each segment meet each other at the well, each with a different protagonist: Tommy, the drug addict in the Liquid Memories segment, and Ralph with a covering on his head due to having his unborn Siamese twin attached to it. But the general plot is non-existent due to just how inconsistent the movie is and its complete refusal to establish anything in or about the story. 3. Everything in the movie makes no sense. Any established plot points get nothing to back up or properly explain them, and they're all downright nonsensical, when they're not outright disturbing and messed up. Not to mention that they're quickly swept under the rug when the segment ends and the next one begins, only for yet more nonsensical and underdeveloped plot points to be introduced. 4. Abysmal animation that's very glitchy, hideous, and looks downright unfinished when it's not being graphic or shocking. It even has glimpses of things, mainly eyeballs, that look like they were taken from real photos, videos. And needless to say, they do not clash well with the already hideous and horrific animation. 5. Speaking of animation, there are many segments that are very disturbing and violent. For example, the limbs yanked out of bodies like legs, arms, and even genitals, brutal on-screen deaths, child abuse, and even child pornography and bestiality. 6. The film was intended to be a dark comedy, but little to no viewers found it funny. Instead, most were revolted and frightened. Because any events or concepts like the ones described in the previous point are absolutely not funny or amusing in the slightest, and they can't be made that way no matter how hard you try. 7. Awful voice acting and sound that feels completely out of place. Labby speaks in a very quiet tone and sounds like he's constantly gasping for breath, which can be extremely irritating and at various points and makes it almost impossible to know what he's actually saying. Tommy's voice sounds obnoxious and rather nasally. And most of the other characters' vocal performances sound either bland, over the top, and not in a good way, like they're trying desperately to sound edgy and intimidating, or like they're not even trying. 8. Poor lip-syncing that rarely, if ever, match what the characters are actually saying. 9. All of the characters here are terrible. They range from idiotic and prone to going along with whatever others tell them to do with no hesitation, Tommy, to the annoying, Ralph and his twin, Tommy's dad, to the unlikable and selfish, the murderer from the second short, the disturbing, Sophia's dad, to the extremely evil and satanic, Labby. 10. Most of the events that occur in the movie are straight up horrifying and disturbing, as discussed previously in WIS number 5. And while media with mature or serious concepts have worked before, it was because they weren't entirely focused on said mature content. They also took the time to develop the story and characters so that it's not just graphic content, but instead an actual story. And whatever said graphic content that was present was for the purpose of the role that it played in the story, so that there's a reason for why they're in the story other than to make it edgier and more adult. But that's not the case here. Because here, not only is there almost zero plot or character establishing, but the graphic content is there for no other reason than for the sake of pure shock value rather than furthering the story. 11. The poster for this movie, which showcases the junkie from the second story in the church from the said story kneeling over the corpse of the woman who was killed in it, all the while being surrounded by Cyclops people and having multiple tentacles reaching out for him, is extremely terrifyingly abysmal to look at. 12. Horrendous soundtrack from Carlos Bonilla, Flyface, and Jimmy Screamer Claus, which sounds distorted and eerie, when there actually is a soundtrack, due to the fact that a majority of the film has little to no background music. And finally, the title also sounds stupid. Where the dead go to die. They don't go anywhere to die. They're already dead. On top of that, it's also misleading. as the movie itself has nothing to do with actually showcasing where the dead go to die, but instead shows three completely unrelated stories. And this is exactly why this movie is one of the most scariest movies next to Plan B. Anyways, this Klasky signing off.